Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And today is a very, very special episode because we're going to be talking about something we don't often have the chance to talk about. The newest lockdowns in Europe. I'm just kidding. We talk about that all the time, but what we don't often get to say is today is Christmas Eve. Quite literally evening in Europe, in England, where we are technically located, but a few hours away from evening here. In America, the land where my co-host and I are broadcasting, I've often said that Christmas is an American holiday. I mean, yeah, I know it existed forever. It was you met at midnight at Mass, right? Christ Mass. You eat the wafer or you pass the wine around, whatever. That's not Christmas. We know what Christmas is. Christmas is Home Alone. Christmas is, deck the halls and pass the eggnog, presents. Nintendo, that's Christmas. And I'll go a step further from saying it's an American holiday. Christmas is a Jewish holiday. That's right. I said it. Look up who wrote all those Christmas carols. Look at which industrialists commercialized the holiday over the 19th and 20th centuries. And when I say Jewish, I mean, that's their ethnic background. But of course, in a place like America, especially in the 19th and first half of the 20th century, America was a place where people forgot where they came from. And that's a good thing. Your life is yours. You're an individual. It's too short for you to be, letting your dead ancestors dictate your life. But I digress. Let's bring on a guy who, he's somewhere in Chicago right now, manipulating the market with his tricks. It's the financial industries, Jonathan Hoenig.
Hey, Rucka, great to be with you and our whole universe of philosophy posse, especially on a day like today. And you're right, we're broadcasting from America, but the Ayn Rand Center UK is a global community. And Christmas is, you can't think of a more really global, non-religious holiday. And, as an opportunity now, I've never had this opportunity to speak to the people of the UK. I just want to say, I don't know, is it thank you or curse you for bringing us this little Christmas ditty? If you remember this one, Rucka, this is, I'll just sing a little bit of it to remind you. Here's to you, raise a glass for everyone. Does that ring a bell?
No.
Do they know it's Christmas? No, not at all.
I've just never seen this. I've never seen this side of you, Jonathan.
Well,
I'm not sure how to feel.
Look, from the man that gave us Zayn did 9/11, I'm just trying to get into the Christmas spirit here a little bit. No, honestly, just to as you said, kind of, we talk about politics very frequently on the Daily Objective. I mean, can't think of a more, I wouldn't say, I would just, maybe I'd go say a objectivist type holiday. There is such a thing, but Christmas, and Rand talks a lot about Christmas and the value of Christmas and the commercial value of Christmas. So, I'll kick it off with just one of her, I think, best quotes, and there's a lot of them. She says the secular meaning of the Christmas holiday is wider than the tenets of any particular religion. She was asked about, is it okay for an atheist to celebrate Christmas? This is my highlighting here, but she says, Christmas is goodwill towards men, a frame of mind to which is not the exclusive property of a Christian religion. The charming of aspect, and I love this one, is that it expresses goodwill in a cheerful, happy, benevolent, non-sacrificial way. One says, Merry Christmas, not weep and repent. So that's what, as I think you said in your, Nintendo, it's about celebrating life, celebrating what you're into, exchanging gifts with friends, buying fun things. And I mean, that to me is, I'm someone who's certainly not raised with the tree, raised celebrating Christmas, but these days and for a while, I'm the biggest celebrant of Christmas and love it for everything Ms. Rand talks about in her essays.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like I mentioned in my lengthy intro. Christmas has existed for millennia as a day, a serious day in the Christian calendar, where you go to, I guess, church at midnight. That's the point. Like at Christ Mass, you eat a wafer. That's the wafer, and the fact that I can't even tell you tells you how important.
But
it really is.
I mean, honestly, do you get a dip? Do you get a dip too with the wafer, or is it just a wafer?
I mean, honest, I don't know. And
dip usually goes with some kind of a dip.
And before the Industrial Revolution, I'm surprised if most villages even had a wafer or a cup of wine to spare. So I mean, life was brutal, miserable, and short. before the development of capitalism and the Industrial Revolution, and all the gifts that the Enlightenment philosophers helped us bring about in the world. And the reason we're even talking about Christmas is because of the way it was commercialized. The way that, I mean, where did the tree come from? The tree is a pagan symbol that the Christians had to sort of appropriate in order to get people on board. Where does where do the presents come from? I mean, that's capitalism. That's the modern world. That's businessmen wanting to sell you stuff and you wanting to buy it for yourself or for your loved ones. It truly is a modern capitalist American holiday. And yeah, if objectivism is the philosophy for living on Earth, if it's the philosophy that gives a justification morally for capitalism, then you can hope that Christmas becomes known as an objectivist holiday. I mean, who's to say that 1,000 years from now, I mean, who's to know? Maybe in 1,000 years from now, people say, oh yeah, Christmas, it's an objectivist holiday, right? That's how it first came about. Yeah, because to them, what's 150 years here and there? Like to 1,000 years from now, they could basically see you and me and George Washington as like living at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So to them, like Ayn Rand and the Industrial Revolution and me and you are all basically one decade in the eyes of the future.
Well, and paraphrasing Ms. Rand, it's earlier than we think in terms of changing the culture, but we're changing it right here and we're speaking. Thank you, Louise, for your Santa contribution, for being part of the philosophy posse. Very generous, those pounds. Robert is kind of paraphrasing what you're saying, Rucka. He says objectivists own Thanksgiving because we celebrate productivity, and we own Christmas because we celebrate rationality, goodwill, and benevolence. That's a whole point about objectivism and interest in Rand just writ large. I think we always aim to coming back to is that people, when they think Ayn Rand, and I mean, Rucka, you know this, you're out in the culture of the world more than probably any of us. What do they think of? Of like a crusty old woman smoking and being angry about everything. But, Christmas is such, I mean, my term here, a kind of objectivist holiday. I mean, a big part of it, as you said, is the commercialization. This again is Rand from her comments. The best aspect of Christmas is the aspect usually decried by the mystics, right? We hear that now, like, oh, too much, Christmas really should be about, I don't know, what do they say? The wafer? I don't even know. But Rand says the fact that Christmas has been commercialized, the gift buying stimulates an enormous outpouring of ingenuity in the creation of products devoted to a single purpose, to give men pleasure. It talks about all the street decorations and absolutely, and especially now, I'll just say at a time of Amazon, where you can get any of that pleasure delivered to you in 2 days at I mean, it is like Santa ain't got nothing on Jeff Bezos. He is Santa.
Yeah, I mean, just literally every myth, I think literally or close to every myth that people, came up with in the ancient world or in the Middle Ages, the gods are flying around. Yeah, well, we can fly. Santa Claus delivers gifts to all the kids. Well, Jeff Bezos does that. I mean, and he's only getting faster and better at it. And all he gets in return is resentment. Not all, but most of what he gets in return is resentment and bitterness because he's making ungodly money doing it. And he's having a good life in doing that. And that's what we get for having an altruist view of morality, that where the moral is the enemy of the practical, where the moral is the enemy of reality, where the moral is the enemy of self-interest. So the more you succeed, the more guilt you accumulate. And that's what it is that we need to destroy and debunk if we're going to live free and prosper.
Well, and you mentioned this idea of guilt, and there's the seminal essay I know you'd recommend that everyone read and share today is Dr. Peikoff's essay on why Christmas should be more commercial. When I first read it, I don't know, years ago, it blew me away. It totally turned around, like so much in objectivism, it totally turned around my whole way of thinking about this. Here's his closing line from that. America's tragedy is that its intellectual leaders have typically tried to replace happiness with guilt. That was exactly what you were saying, Rucka, by insisting that the spiritual medium of Christmas is religion and self-sacrifice for Tiny Tim or his equivalent. The spiritual must start with recognizing reality. Life requires reason, selfishness, capitalism. That is what Christmas should celebrate. And really, underneath all pretense, that's what it does celebrate. So he says it's time to take the Christ out of Christmas, turn the holiday into a guiltlessly egoistic pro-reason, this worldly commercial celebration. And to that I say, I have my Amazon cart loaded with panettone, Christmas lights, great sheets, and fancy bath oils, and God bless us, everyone.
God bless us, everyone. I have some scented oils or scented oils. Not really sure what to do with them. I originally got them because I had a humidifier that you can put those into it. But I don't really use a humidifier anymore because the new place I live now, the new climate is already humid enough. So not really sure what to do with these oils. If anybody knows, why don't you super chat us some great advice, and you'll be spreading the benevolence and spreading the cheer. Yeah, like I said, Home Alone comes to mind, movies. People take these things for granted, they consume it growing up, they enjoy it, they love it, and then they get snarky and they say, oh, this is just a bastardization of Christmas. But I will, and this comes from the secularists as much as it comes from the religionists, people who think that, oh, Christmas has just become a consumerist, consumer-driven, commercialized holiday. Okay, by what standard are you assessing things? What is it you have a problem with here? People setting goals and pursuing them, people creating value and offering it through trade to other people. Like, what exactly would you like to see? Remember when Obama was first president and all the left and the Democrats were talking about taxes need to be higher for the rich. And I remember Dennis Miller, your fellow Fox News fella, would be like, he says, none of these liberals can answer. What is the correct tax rate? What should it be? 90%, 60%? Like, what is it that would make you say, okay, we're there? But no one can ever answer that. So I will ask all the anti-capitalist, anti-commercialists, anti-this, anti-Christmas people, like, what is it you actually would like? Write it down. Read it to me. Tell me what it is you want and why. But they're motivated by negativity. All they know is this ain't it. All they know is what they are against. But you can't go through life being motivated by negativity.
Well, and isn't it interesting, at least here in America, those who are often the most condemnatory of the commercialization of Christmas are the so-called biggest defenders of capitalism. For them, that right and left dichotomy is gone. But let's just say the so-called right-wing America, they're the ones that mostly say, oh, well, we really should be at the soup kitchen. There is no pure egoistic, benevolent lovers of this day like objectivists. Thanks, Timmy the Tiger. He asks, have you tried drinking them? I don't know what he's referring to.
The essential oils or something?
Yeah, shoot him down.
It's going to take more than $2. I feel like I want to use them to make my environment smell good. I don't know if just drinking them is going to do that.
Well, I smell an OnlyFans in your future, Rucka.
I actually am one of the few people who can say I was banned from OnlyFans. I was not posting any pornographic material on them. I was just posting what I consider to be funny, and OnlyFans says, "Oh no, you're not." Robert with $5 says, do not remind me that it pertains only to this life on earth. I am concerned with no other. Neither are you. And that is by John Galt.
I love it. I have to say, Lenny Bruce ain't got nothing in you, Rucka. I love that. That's a unique notoriety.
That's a compliment. Thank you. Let me say this about soup kitchens and charity. Listen, I'm not opposed. I'm a nice guy. I don't have a problem with doing nice things for people sometimes or a lot of the time. But at a certain point, if you're not for capitalism, if you're not for individual rights, then all of your charity work is an act of fetishization. You are fetishizing these poor people. You are using them as props in the fascinating play that is your life, in my opinion. Okay, people talk about, oh, we need to cure cancer. Yeah, rattle the can, please donate to cure cancer. There is a cure for cancer. It's called laissez-faire capitalism. It's called laissez-faire capitalism. It's called deregulate medicine, deregulate science, deregulate finance, and see how quickly the types of people who brought us the iPhone bring us a cure for cancer that you take and you forget that cancer ever existed. There is a cure for poverty. There is a cure for every disease. It's called laissez-faire capitalism. I don't mean, crony protectionist quote capitalism. I mean literal, actual, unregulated, free market capitalism based on individual rights and the egoistic ethics that entails. Thank you. I'll be here all week.
Great.
Allison with $2 says, I'll take your scented oils, winky face. Is that an act? Is she flirting, or does she just really want the anyway?
I've seen some of your Instagrams, and it's oftentimes more than flirting, is all, you know, from what I've seen. But Allison's an awesome regular participant in the. So, you know, maybe let's save that for, what is it called? Only chat. What are we doing? Super positive Clubhouse. We'll do Clubhouse in a minute. But, you know, your point, Rucka, just about the season itself. I'll highlight this too from Rand. And she says the street decorations put up by department stores and other institutions, right? Because there is that whole gear up to the Christmas season really starts in October now. But she says the Christmas trees, the winking lights, the glittering colors provide the city with a spectacular display, which only commercial greed could afford to give us. And this is it. One would have to be terribly depressed to resist this wonderful gaiety of that spectacle. You know, for me, that's too. It's like, even if you don't buy this stuff, even if, you know, for me, it's fun to just put things in Amazon carts and kind of, you know, as a kid, you'd go through catalogs. It just, there's something really fun about looking at all the ingenuity of man coming out in a completely commercial way. And to start, this is my interpretation here, pissing on it with, well, you know, you really should be at the zoo kitchen. You know, that's separate. To me, that's a separate thing. If it, you know, rather than enjoy this day for all those materialistic commercial reasons Rand and Dr. Peikoff talk about.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of being a curmudgeon and a Grinch and like disliking Christmas, I think when I think back to like what made me feel so negatively in the past when I was younger about, you know, holidays and stuff like that. I mean, there's a number of factors, maybe feeling like I had no part in it or something like that, or I didn't have enough people to celebrate with, but also I wasn't being productive. So, you know, these celebrations as an end in themselves are not what it's about. You gotta be productive in life to then enjoy, you know, days off, to enjoy holidays, to celebrate, to buy gifts. You know, if all you are about in life is consumption, that is very unsatisfying. And that's where we see people depressed, people over medicated, people addicted. That's my very amateur assessment of those things. But when consumption and spending money is all that you're about, then I think you'll be very unsatisfied. The idea is pursue values, set goals, and try your damnedest to achieve them. Then when it comes to celebration and spreading the joy, you're able to appreciate it because you have self-esteem.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I wish I have to go look at the book around here at some point. Dr. Peikoff, I remember talking about that. This is in my remembrance of it, that something about the balance, if you will, of production and consumption, and how, you know, production piece. Someone had asked, I think, in effect, of like, well, why should you ever consume if life is about production? But, you know, to your point, Rucka, about being, I think, mindful about consumption and being purposeful about it, and really enjoying it, getting a lot out of it. I mean, you know, for me at least, you know, I don't spend a lot on kind of designer watches or kind of fancy expensive things like that. To me, that's not kind of really where my values are. Others might be. Everyone has his or her own values in it, in the aesthetic world. But, you know, I think it's, you know, getting real value out of whatever your fancy is, what it is, and being mindful about it. And again, you know, not being a second hander. I guess this is more shopping advice than anything else. But, you know, for me to spend extra for a coat because everyone else has that, you know, that's very second handed. But, you know, it's ultimately about your values when it comes to your money.
Look, I mean, it's very sad when, let's say, a mom and pop shop goes out of business. And this is not a modern phenomenon. It's been happening for hundreds of years, basically, at least 100 some years, when, let's say, Kmart comes to your town and now the mom and pop shop is struggling. I'm not happy about what they need to deal with now. But first of all, that is the way the world works. Just as when the mom and pop shop opened up, they displaced some kind of traveling gypsy squad. That's just the way life is. But also, again, laissez-faire capitalism raises all of us up. And even those people who are struggling, let's say, who their mom and pop shop maybe went out of business or something, that those same people, they're able to order stuff from Amazon, which helps them both in their personal and professional realm. They're able to live cheap.
They're starting their own businesses.
There's a million ways.
All that.
Yeah. There's just
were you ever in a high school production of The Music Man by any chance? You
No,
seem like
I
a
didn't. I
musical
was not. I didn't have a lot of school spirit in those years, but
the whole story about the song about the Wells Fargo wagon, you know, they're all waiting for the Wells Fargo wagon to come. Could be curtains, it could be dishes, and you know, what could it be? It's like we have that value 100 years later every day now. All the and Robert here, great supporter, says this one goes out to objectivist friend and serial entrepreneur Larry Mason. Each Christmas, he adopts a local family facing hardships. This year, 4 families. He provides assistance and gifts in person. Follow Larry on, thank you for pointing that out. Thank you for doing it. Follow Larry. He's an amazing entrepreneur, real estate mogul, stylish guy, fashionable guy, interesting, puts up beautiful artwork. I mean, you know Larry. I mean, that's awesome to hear what he does. And I'm sure he gets a lot of selfish pleasure and value out of it as well.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a beautiful thing. Like I said, I have done it. I intend to do it, and I hope people do plenty of charity work. I just like to point out the reason anybody needs charity is because we don't have laissez-faire capitalism. And to the degree we have elements of capitalism, that gets people out of their bind, out of their troubles way more than any charity work. And if we were to attain and achieve and sustain laissez-faire capitalism, you'd be hard pressed to find anyone that actually needs help and can't take care of themselves. So as long as we agree on where it is we want to go, I'm happy to help, for us to help one another on the way there. Roland with 1999 euros and a bunch of Christmas trees. Hey, that's our symbol. That's the American symbol. You cannot appropriate our culture that way. I'm just kidding. You can appropriate it.
We appreciating you appropriate. I mean, that, you know, this whole idea of, you know, charity and spending money. I mean, it's about, at the end of the day, supporting your values. And you are Philosophy Positive, do it the whole year long. We appreciate it, especially this time of year, but you're the one who are kind of keeping us going now. I mean, just the last, year and a half, we're now bringing you programming almost every day of the week with philosophical stars like Rucka Ali, Mark Pellegrino, and what's his name. So, you know, you're doing that. You're supporting your values every day, 5 pounds, 20 pounds, 100 pounds at a time, one subscription at a time. So we thank you now more than ever.
Yes, we do. And yeah, Nikos was supposed to be here originally, but apparently he has better things to do on Christmas Eve than hang out on the internet with a couple of Jews. So have fun out there, Nikos. Have fun. No, we're yeah. I mean, this show has been a very, very interesting and rewarding, often, experience and venture. And I sense the much of the audience feels the same way. It's become a very I think unpredicted sort of source of value for a lot of us. And you know, it came about during the pandemic. I've often said, but not often enough, I really respect the way that this network took advantage of the lockdowns, and rather than sitting around and waiting for the world to get back to normal, adjusted and adapted. And here today, this network has thrived. This show, of course, has thrived. And we have thrived. You and I, Jonathan, we have thrived thanks to this, thanks to the pandemic.
Well, and thanks to this community. I mean, you think back to Rucka, like the early days of Objectivism, which was like, you know, a couple of people in New York getting together over coffee, smoking, talking about, it was like, you know, Dr. Binswanger a little bit that day when he had like a couple people. That was the objectivist movement back then. You know, now, thanks to people's contributions, people's support, you know, we have this international meeting of young people, old people, people interested in objectivism with different levels of expertise, all students of objectivism, learning from each other, getting serious experts like James Valiant, all, you know, I mean, Dr. Binswanger alone is worth the price of admission. Here's someone who actually knew, he published a book with Ayn Rand. So, you know, I think what's so exciting is we're part of this movement. Our audience is part of it. Something to celebrate on this Christmas, that we're building that next phase in the objectivist movement. For me, it's not about taking over the world. For me, it's about enjoying life. You know, I enjoy working with you, meeting so many of our friends and regular kind of participants. Pretty soon we're going to be meeting them in person. So keep those shekels coming, keep those pounds coming, because you're helping us to grow in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of overwhelming to think about, you know, you know, the objectivism and all the greats that we're now just a couple of degrees of separation away from. But as far as, you know, the sort of everyman, the sort of layman, the sort of Reardons of the world, or even the Eddie Willers of the world that benefit from Ayn Rand's work, it's really been a true honor to kind of to be participating in this, to be schmoozing with you, Jonathan. I used to watch you on Fox on those those tic-tac-toe or those four squared yelling matches with the others, and I knew I liked something about you because you would speak in a language using certain terms that not everybody would use, much less pragmatist and much more principled defense of capitalism, while also demonstrating its practicality. And then lo and behold, I learned you're an Ayn Rand guy. And well, flash forward, and we're actually doing a show together. It's quite.
We met at Ocon, and we, you know, and I think that's part of what's so fun. I mean, we know so many of these names. Tazy, I feel like I know Bonnie, Allison, Apollo, Christopher. I mean, we're part of this community. And as I said, you think back to like the 60s and 70s, there were so many names around objectivism at that time. And I know for none of us, it's about, you know, notoriety or anything, but it's just excited to see how many people in objectivism are interested in cool things. I mean, you and Mark and Blake Scholes and all these people doing very interesting things. So for me, it's just fun to be part of it and kind of sit back, watch, listen, and learn.
The world is definitely changing. It definitely democratizes a lot in a way that could be troublesome at times. So it's with great power comes great responsibility. So, you know, I hope we're living up to that by creating more of this like everyman's objectivist type of content. So let's keep this going. We got a big week of content next week. Do we have a big week of content? Maybe not. I don't know who's on and who's off next week, but I know the Daily Objective is on as usual next week. And since I've been away with a hurting throat, I am now more or less recovered and ready to host like a bull. Is that what bulls do? They host? Anyway, I'm ready to work like a dog. Yeah, I'm ready to work. I'm ready to host next week. Maybe hopefully you'll be here with me to help Jonathan as well. And we'll see how that goes. And then keeping this moving into the new year. So with that being said, thank you, Tazy, for the 179 pounds. $2 for getting my name right, Jay. And a hand symbol. I've heard conflicting things about. Oh, and in the chat, in the regular chat, not the super chat. This is more of the okay. I'm not going to insult. I'm tired of insulting, but I often joke like
the Pikers chat is what you're saying.
This is more of the Kmart chat room. But we like Kmart. We like department stores. Anyway, Anne, thank you for your regular comment saying Tal's show starts in January. Yeah, I saw that in my YouTube timeline. Tal Safani and Amanda Maxim are going to be doing their happiness themed show. They're bringing it here to ARCUK, and some other surprises. I have heard some things that you might find.
I mean, and that's just what I'm saying. I mean, it wasn't talk about technology. It wasn't too long ago that if you wanted to learn about any of these ideas, you had to go to someone's house and listen to the records that were sent to that house. That's how objectivism was basically spread in the early days. It was like records or tapes, I think, that there was like little listening parties, but now you've got it on your phone, anywhere you go, new material from actual studied, scholars. So it's a brand new world. We're bringing it to you.
Well, can I actually ask, why is it they had these strict rules? Like they sent you a cassette tape and you need to agree to listen to it with a group of, like, why didn't they just make more copies of the tape? Like it only takes you just have to hit record. I had a tape record.
I think I don't know, but I think it was in the early days. It was a real thing about keeping that material. Honestly, I don't know. We're going to have to ask Shoshana about that. Shoshana Milgram. She's been on the Ayn Rand Center UK. She's the studied scholar of all this objectivist history. So we should inquire with her about that. She would probably have the ready answer.
Mm-hmm. And Allison,
you would be bootlegging it, I'm sure.
No, I mean, why didn't ARI make copies of the tapes is what I'm asking. Like, why not make many copies of the tapes rather than saying you need to agree to listen with a group of people? Why not make more copies of the tapes? It's very cheap.
A lot of this is back to the Nathaniel Brandon era. I don't think it's the Ayn Rand Institute era. We're talking about the 60s and 70s.
It's got to be more of the Leonard Peikoff era. No, it's like the 80s at this point when
Well,
you hear people talk about
this is the
cassette
type of
tapes.
thing we'll discuss, I'm sure, on next week's show.
Yeah, but Allison in the regular chat, where let's say people that are kind of more on the come up in life comment for free, says I'm wrong for that. And as usual, when people don't provide context, I am left to spend my days wondering what exactly they mean. But I'm wrong. I'm gonna think about that. Better yet, tell me about it in Clubhouse. We are heading over there. That's all for today. That's it. No more content today. Everybody have a joyful, happy Christmas or whatever you celebrate. You know, whether you're with a family, whether you're with friends, whether you're all alone, the important thing is that Jonathan's feet are clearly well maintained and taken care of, as the visual version of this show will add context to. All right, everybody. Thank you all. See you back here Monday for the Daily Objective. Happy Christmas and goodbye.